Today I'm going to teach you all the basics a beginner would need to know in order to tune a harp properly. I want to go through all the terminology, the settings on the tuner, and how to safely tune without risking breaking a string. I'm going to try to keep the music lingo beginner friendly. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to take time to tune both my harps in real time so you can just see how I tune. A brand new harp may start in tune, but it's completely normal for harps to go out of tune even after a short car ride, change in weather, or even if it's just sitting unplayed for a few days. Harps need to be tuned frequently. Strings naturally lose tension, can slip at the pins, and slowly just degrade over time. It is totally normal to tune your harp often, and once you get the hang of it, it takes like 5 minutes to tune. My go-to tuner is the Peterson Strobe tuner, or iStrobo Soft. The best tuner, hands down. I've been using Peterson tuners for the past 17 years. This is not a sponsored post. I'm just a huge fan of the tuner, and I'm a huge fan of playing in tune. Do you need a pickup for your tuner? I generally put my tuner on my music stand next to my harp, and it can pick up all the notes fine. The only time that I do use a pickup is if I'm in a loud environment. Say I'm in an orchestra rehearsal and there's people practicing. I have to use a pickup in order to not pick up their notes. Which string do you start on? This actually makes a difference in your tuning. On my pedal harp, I start with the lowest gut string, work my way all the way up the harp, and then start from my highest wire and work my way down. So why we do that order, if we start from the highest string and work our way down, by the time we get to the higher tensioned lower strings, they tend to pull more on the soundboard, which then would adjust the tuning up here, and then the upper strings wouldn't be in tune anymore. On my smaller build lever harps, I prefer to start from the bottom and work my way up. On smaller harps, the soundboard does not get pulled that drastic because the strings aren't as high tension, so it's not as big of a deal. When tuning a harp, you want all the levers and pedals disengaged. This means levers down and pedals up. That way you're tuning the full portion of the string rather than having it pinched up here and affecting how the string is tuned. I'm now going to go over some terminology that has two different meanings and that people get confused over quite often. Tuning has two different meanings on lever harp. When we talk about tuning the harp, we're talking about small adjustments to each string so the strings are perfectly in tune. When we talk about the tuning of your harp, we're talking about the system that the notes are tuned to, depending on what pitches you want your levers at. The most common tuning for lever harps, when all the levers are down, is C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. The reason this is the most popular one is so you can play the most amount of key signatures of flats and sharps on your lever harp. Another terminology that has two different meanings is flats and sharps. Generally, when we talk about flats and sharps, we're talking about the actual note name, such as an F sharp or a B flat. But when we're talking about tuning, we can say a note sounds flat or it sounds sharp. It means the note sounds slightly higher or slightly lower than what it should be. For example, we can have an E flat note and it could sound slightly sharp, which means we're not quite on the pitch yet. Another terminology I want to clarify, and it's the most confusing, is note numbering. The world of harp and the world of music in general has two different ways of numbering each note's register. Every note on the harp has a number assigned to it. So middle C is called C4. The one above that is C3. Above that is C2, and so on. The strings are labeled so we know exactly which strings to order because they are all different sizes. But in the world of music, it means the complete opposite. The higher the pitch, the higher the number. The lowest string on my harp is called C7, but in the world of music, that pitch is actually C1. I know so many people who have tried to match the number on their tuner with the string they're tuning, and they end up cranking their string so high, they end up breaking the string. My advice is don't look at the number on the tuner. I also don't look at the letters on the tuner either, because harp strings have so many overtones. Occasionally the wrong letter shows up on your tuner. Let me teach you about how often to pluck and how to adjust the string. Always pluck frequently, once or twice a second. Harp strings fade quite fast, so frequent plucking is important. And never turn when there's no sound coming from the string. Always pluck while you're turning slowly and in very small increments. That way, you know you're on the right string and you avoid potentially overturning or worse, breaking the string. A lot of harps come with the T-shaped tuning key. I use the elongated one for a couple different reasons. It's a little bit better on your wrist, especially when you're tuning those really low wire strings. And also I find I get a bit more accurate of a tune just because I'm able to really be slow. To raise the pitch, turn your thumb away from you. To lower it, turn your thumb towards yourself. If you feel like you've turned a bit too much and now you feel lost of where you're at, you can always double check your work by playing the same note 1 octave below the string that you just tuned. Unless you just put a brand new string on, you should never have to crank that note a lot. I'm gonna list a few troubleshoot things that could be going on if you're having trouble tuning. Check if you're on the correct string. Check if your string might be about to break. Check if your pin could be loose and the string is just slipping. Double check that your lever is truly down. Now that I've explained the basics of tuning, I'm going to go through the tuner's interface. This is the part that scrolls and shows if your note is sharp or flat. I generally follow the smaller scroll on the right side, so if it scrolls up, the note is too high. If it scrolls down, the note is too low. If the scroll stays pretty still, it's in tune. Here we have a letter plus a sharp or flat. The letter and sharp or flat next to it shows the name of the note. It's not telling you that you are sharp or flat. Side note, when you are tuning a note, that letter could read something totally different than what you're playing on the harp. It could be its enharmonic. Enharmonic means it's the same sounding note, but just spelt differently. If you're plucking a C flat on your harp, it might show up as a B. I'll leave an enharmonic chart here just so you can reference it. This is the number that tells us the octave register of the note. Again, this is not the same thing as the harp string number. On the bottom right, we have concert A441. This is the hertz frequency of the pitch tuning every string will be at. 440 is most common, but I tune my harp to 441. It's what it's regulated at. It accounts for the slight fall that happens over the course of a rehearsal. So when playing with others, a slightly flat harp sounds worse than a slightly sharp harp. So we start a little bit higher and then it just falls gradually over rehearsal. And this is totally normal. Strings tend to stretch the more they're played. Cents. This is how accurate this tuner is. A cent is just a way to measure very small distances in pitch. I really hope this video was helpful for those who are just beginning on the harp or learning how to tune their instrument properly. And please write in the comments if you have any questions or anything else you want me to clarify. I am very happy to help. Now I'm going to demonstrate tuning both my pedal and lever harp just so you can see how I tune in real time. I have not tuned this in a very long time. I'm going to say a few weeks. And this has been about 1 week.
Mm-hmm.